sure they leave a legacy of health for their children? Anybody want to break the health curse so that their children don't have to pay the consequences for our decisions in our generation? Raise your hand. Anybody want to correct 400 years of incorrect lifestyle living? Anybody? Awesome. Very good. And that's what we're going to do today. We're gonna spend about 25 minutes here together. When I'm done, Dr. Brown will open up the adjustment tables. We'll start adjusting people, and I'll still be answering questions for another 15 or 20 minutes. So if you have questions, please jot them down. If you have anything to write with, notebook and pen, this part is going to be very good for you as well. Dan, is everything working well there? Good. Front desk, you have the names of the first 3 people that's going to go on the table? Yeah. Who are they?
This are necessities.
Okay. Good, good, good. So we know exactly who's getting on the table. So here's the deal. You may have heard this before, but I want to remind you of why I'm standing before you. You see, I was only a little boy when I was taking what I thought was my last breath. I'm very certain that I was dying. I was 19 years old. I had just finished having a horrific motorcycle accident, and I was lying on the ground. And when I regained my consciousness, I was lying in a pool of my own blood. As I was taking my last breaths, I began to reflect on my life and ask God, why was it time for me to go and I have not lived my purpose? See, as a child like you and like me, I always felt like there was something significant, something important, something magnificent that God needed to do through me. That there was a purpose for me being created. There was a calling, and I hadn't discovered nor had I lived with that calling. And I began to pass away, and I was dying, and I was taking my last breaths. And you know, in those last few seconds, your whole life passes before you. And I remember my last thoughts before losing consciousness was, just give me one more chance. And if you just give me that chance, I promise I'd wake up in the morning and I'd find exactly what it is you wanted me to do, and I'd do it with all my might. I would become obedient. When you spoke, I'd say, yes, sir. And there would be no question, no doubt about that. Everybody say, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You see, sometimes the voids determine the values, which basically means when something is being taken away from you is when you value it most. It's one of the problems. That's one of the curses. One of the curses begins with the fact that we wait till something is being taken from us before we value it. Before we what?
Value it.
You see, we often sabotage the very things that mean the most to us. And by the time we have lost it, that's when we come and try to buy it back. We beg it back. We go and pray for it back. We want it back. When it was given to you as your birthright, you sabotaged it. You left it alone. You ignored it. You neglected it. The values sometimes, the voids, or what's leaving you often becomes what's valuable. If you look around, unfortunately, a lot of our practice members are up in age. They've crossed the 30 mark, 40 mark. That is not by accident. It's not coincidental. There is a cause for every effect. There is a cause for every what? Effect. What if I told you that researchers and scientists have discovered that almost all preventable health conditions begin in childhood? That the things you're suffering from now can be traced and linked right back to things that to how you were raised in your childhood. What if I told you that you could change that curse? What if I told you and showed you a model and a path and a way to be able to help you see that there is a better way and that you can literally correct what could be 400 or 500 years of consequences because you didn't stand up and correct it in the people that you're responsible for? And what if I told you that it wasn't that complicated, that it's quite simple, that if you only apply a few basic things, that we can literally correct diseases, most of the diseases that our loved ones are suffering from, and prevent them? What if I told you that nearly all diseases are born from a soil of ignorance? What if I could demonstrate to you that you were truly born in the image and likeness of God and not born in the image of sickness, disease, and early death? What if I could show you how the science has merged and has demonstrated what we've been preaching about every Sunday in churches for thousands of years? What if I could show you that science can demonstrate that it's not a myth, it's not a theory, it's not a philosophy, but it's a scientific approach towards staying well and getting well? Would you be interested in that? Would you be willing to share that with the people you run across? Would you be willing to demonstrate through your behavior and actions a better way? Would you be willing to let your children see that grandma won't tolerate what grandma has had to watch for most of her life? You see, when you're young, the void is not there. It's not lacking. You feel like you got plenty of life and life is going to be with you forever. It's only when you start losing it that becomes a value. That's part of the problem. It's the psychology of waiting to try to correct something that should have never came in the first place. So today's topic, this was a long introduction, was how to break generational health curses. How to break generational health curses. This will be an introduction to this topic. This is something I'm absolutely certain about, by the way. My certainty about this topic can override anybody's doubt in this room. I'm very certain. I have researched. I've made it my business since God gave me that second breath. And I woke up in that hospital, and I went through 6 to 9 months of rehabilitation to learn to walk again, to learn to function again. And when I began to get obedient, God was leading me somewhere. He found me right here, right now, for you. And I'm absolutely sure that the people who need to hear this message are here right now. And it may be only one of you that absolutely will take this message and make sure that the people in your communities will begin to live by it. I'm absolutely certain that there is a generational curse, but it's not spiritual. It may have some spiritual components, but it is not spiritual. I'm not here teaching you something metaphysical today. I'm here to show you through science and through the way diseases are created that we literally created these things. God did not curse you. You were not cursed. You have not inherited a curse called disease. I told you earlier that disease is born out of the soil called ignorance. The only cure for ignorance is awareness. The only cure for ignorance is what?
Awareness.
Awareness has to be communicated and articulated and wrote about and talked about until people understand. That's the mission I'm on. That's the mission I will live for the rest of my life. Got it?
Got it.
For those of you who do not know, when I'm going through my program and I want to make sure you're understanding what I'm saying, I'll ask you if you've got it. When I ask you if you've got it, the response simultaneously should be
Got it.
Let's practice that. Got it?
Got it.
Awesome. Am I talking too fast? Before I begin, I want to acknowledge our newest family of the month. Please stand up. Woo! Mr. and Mrs. Paul. We used to call it Practice Member of the Month. We changed it to Family of the Month. And the reason why I changed it to Family of the Month is because I know the solution for breaking generational health curses. And there's something in common about this subject topic today, about breaking generational health curses and the Family Member of the Month. There's something in common about those two. And before I finish this message, I hope you can put the pieces of the puzzle together and see exactly why we changed that topic. So let's begin. The questions you pose in your life determine the quality of your life. Questions you pose in your life, questions that you bring about and conceptualize in your mind determines the quality of your life and those you're responsible for. Quality of your questions. Because you cannot get the right answer unless you pose the right question. You see, the beauty about this world, this universe, this magnificence that God has gifted us with, is that no questions go unanswered. You will always get an answer to your question. It may not be the answer you want to hear, but you will always get an answer to your question. But you have to be careful of the questions you ask. If you ask a silly question, you will get a good answer to a silly question. So today I want to help prepare you to start to see how good questions get to good answers and are sustainable. Let's proceed. Here are two good questions. These are two very, very good questions. Why are we so sick? And how do we get and what?
Stay well.
How do we get and stay well? Well, let's see. Are we really sick? Let me tell you what scientists have revealed. Scientists and researchers around the world have now said that the human species is now the sickest species on the planet. That there's not an animal or another insect or species that is dying at such lower rates compared to their genetic potential than the human species. And I did the research and I said, well, is it because of war? Is it because of genocide? Is it because of bombs? Is it because of all of those things? Is it car accidents? And the answer was overwhelmingly absolutely not. The causes were preventable diseases. Preventable what?
Diseases.
I said diseases can only be born out of the soil of ignorance. Preventable diseases is the cause of human beings moving from the super species we used to be known as to now the sickest species. I want you to know a few statistics today that according to research, the average life expectancy in our land, Ghana, average is 60 years. That means some people will die at 30, some will die at 20, some will die at 60, some will die at 70, but on average, when you add it all together, you get an average of what? 60. I also want you to know that researchers and scientists, congruent with the Bible and the Quran, have both said that the human body was designed to live healthy and vibrantly for 120 years. I didn't make this up. Don't blame me. So 120 potential, which is what the image you were born in, the image you conceived your children in, the image in which they will conceive their children in, generations. And we've got 60. I'm not very good at math, but if I'm not mistaken, 60 is half. It's not 20% less, it's not 10% less, it's half. I think it was Malaysia, and if anybody knows history as well, better you can correct me, I think it was Malaysia who gained independence the same time that Ghana gained independence.
Yeah.
Yes. And the life expectancy of Malaysia at the time was way below Ghana. And now that life expectancy has moved on upwards and surpassed Ghana and is on upwards, and I believe it's in the 70s now. Do you know Japanese children, just like our Ghanaian children, have a life expectancy on average of about 82 years? They live in villages, they're also poor. It has nothing to do, it's not purely a poverty factor. It's a quality of question factor, which I will demonstrate for you. I want you to know a few more things before I move forward real quick here. Half of our society, unfortunately, God forbid, but unfortunately, will die of a heart disease. Stroke, heart hypertension, something related to the heart. The heart will go into arrest. They will have cardiac arrest, some type of heart failure for half of the preventable diseases. Half of our population, half. That means when you walk down the street and you see two people, you can pick one of them and say one of them passed away of heart disease. Statistically. Now, I don't want to wish that on anybody, but I'm just trying to let you know how dangerous the situation is we're talking about here today. Which is why I'm committing my next workshop. I will come and do a workshop at this office every month. My next workshop will be, I think it's Wednesday, February 26th. Mark that on your calendars, Wednesday, February 26th. I'm going to dedicate that workshop to showing you the best way possible to prevent and safeguard your family from heart disease. I'm going to bring the science, the techniques, the strategy to help you accomplish that. If you're interested in that, I suggest you go ahead and mark your calendars and bring your spouse with you. Someone who you know who already has heart disease, or someone who you know could be afraid of acquiring something like heart disease. I'm going to address that and hit it head on Wednesday the 26th. Got it?
Got it.
Out of the half, okay, we got this population, right? Half heart disease. Out of the remaining half of people, 2/3 of them will pass away, unfortunately, of some type of preventable cancer. Breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, cancer. On the BBC, it was on, I believe it was Monday or yesterday? Yesterday, they talked about the epidemics around the world when it comes to cancer.
12,000 women die every year in Ghana.
12,000 women die every year in Ghana from cancer. I want you to see that the quality of your question determines the quality of your life. You see? If you're not careful, you will spend your time coping with cancer as opposed to preventing it or correcting it. I want to show you, I want to say something that I think it's important that there be cancer awareness. But unfortunately, if you watch carefully, Mr. Tokano, you'll find that the approaches that are out there are actually victim-minded approaches. Reactive, victim-minded. After you've gotten cancer, now you want to wear a ribbon to make people aware of cancer. Women, when you do your breast palpation, which is very important, that is not prevention. That is early detection. There's a huge difference between living a lifestyle that prevents cancer and finding cancer early. Gentlemen, when they bend you over and stick on that globe up your rectum, check your prostate. By the time they find cancer, unfortunately, you have already spent 20, 30, 40, 50 years neglecting. I hope you're getting this.
Yeah.
I gotta move faster. So why are we so sick and how do we get and stay well? You can't answer the second question, how do we get and stay well, until you answer the first question. Why are we so sick? So let's take a look at that. Are we sick because of bad germs? Did God plague us with some germs, waiting for us to walk down the street and the germ jumps out the tree? Ah! I want you! Do you know you can have two babies living in the same house, born from the same womb, drink the same breast milk, eat the same food, sleep in the same crib, and one can be and acquire sickness and diseases and one may not. Germs are not what you need to be afraid of. Matter of fact, I can show you research that says your body has to have a certain amount of germs. It's called a bacterial flora. Anyway, that's another story. What about bad bugs? How about bad luck? Or here's the most predominant one, the current sick care model. See, you call it a healthcare model and I call it a contradiction. Einstein said contradictions lead to destruction. And the degree of destruction is always equivalent to the degree of the contradiction. Did you get that? Contradictions lead to destruction. The level of destruction is proportionate to the level of the contradictions. The contradiction we've been living is that what we do we call healthcare. I said diseases are born out of soil called ignorance. It starts from these contradictions. You actually think what you've been doing is healthcare. I know it's not healthcare, it's actually sick care because you don't do anything until you are sick. And then once you are sick, you go seek some type of care, not to correct the cause of the sickness, not to correct the lifestyle that created the sickness, but to cover up the signals and symptoms of the sickness. I'm telling you, your current healthcare model is designed to silence the wisdom of God. So when you put your hand in a fire, God said you should have pain, so you would know to move your hand out of fire. If you go take a painkiller, or you numb, or you block the nerve, or you cut out the nerve that leads to the hand so you don't feel the fire, next thing you know, somebody's cooking kebabs. And lo and behold, it's you. There is wisdom. Do you know? I'm going to challenge you now. What if I told you that pathology is actually mythology? Which means there's really no such thing as disease. There's only adaptive physiology. What if I told you that the body can't do anything stupid? And that for every effect there has to be a cause? And what if I told you that your ooches and owls and pains and conditions and symptoms and even your diseases is an intelligent adaptation to the sick environment you've placed yourself in internally? What if I told you, I'm going to say that again. What if I told you that the very diseases that you're afraid of, the conditions that you're concerned about, or already have, what if I told you they are a result of your body intelligently, divinely and intelligently adapting to the sick internal environment we have placed our cells and tissues in? I can demonstrate that to you through research. What if I told you that cancer was not an accident? Just no more as pain is for putting your hand in the fire. What if putting your hand in the fire, having pain as a body signal, feedback, is identical to the purpose of disease? It's feedback to show you that you should change. You should what? Change. Now what happens if you don't change in one generation and you create the same type of lifestyle in your child? You now will perpetuate the same cause. And they will have the same effects. And if you don't ask the right questions, you will never get the right answers. Is this making some sense to you?
Yes.
Alright, I gotta move a little faster. So, There's really only two causes to preventable diseases, and it's two words: toxicity or deficiency. Those are technical, and I'm going to make it simple for you. Toxicity means that something you are doing with your temple, your body, your mind, something is happening, something you're doing is toxifying the genetic potential of your body. That image and likeness that you were born in, something you are doing is blocking that image from expressing its glory. Are you getting this?
Yes.
Toxicity, you are toxifying. I'm not just talking about toxic petrol fuel. I'm talking about something you're doing with your body is blocking your genetic potential to express the greatness and glory which you were born from. Got it?
Yes.
From toxicity, if it's not toxicity, it's deficiency, which means your body genetically needs something. Your body needs certain things genetically. It has to have some things now in which it asks for. It's designed to have a few things. And if you don't get those things, your body will be deficient. Say deficient. Deficient. And if it's deficient, it will begin to try to give you signals and feedback that is deficient in these things. And if you listen and ask the right questions, you can now provide the body what it needs. If you don't listen, then it will continue to try to give you body warning signals and warning signs through symptoms and diseases and conditions until eventually one small organ says, I am fatigued, I'm tired, I can't function. That's called arrest. You know, when you arrest something, you handcuff it and it doesn't go anywhere, it stops. Cardiac arrest means the heart stops. Okay? Kidney failure means the kidney stops. I hope you're getting this.
Yes.
Toxicity or deficient. So if the cause of preventable diseases is something you're doing to toxify or something that you're deficient in, then the solution has to be the opposite. So how do we get and stay well? It starts from making sure you do the opposite. What is the opposite of deficiency? Sufficiency. Something you don't have enough of, you give it enough of. Simple, right? What is the opposite of toxicity? Purity. Whatever you're doing is toxifying in your body. Stop doing that and do something that's more pure for your body. Is this complicated? Is this something you can't understand? It's something that you can easily understand. Is this not something that you can teach a child? Is this not something you can base a lifestyle on? You see, the real causes of preventable diseases is death style. I call it death style because if it was lifestyle, the style in which you're living should create more. Should create more. But if the style in which you're living is creating an early death, half of your God-given potential, then that we should call a death style. The style in which you're living is creating us putting on our blacks every single weekend. The style in which we've been living is creating a situation that our body is going into a response, adaptation, giving you signals. You call them diseases. You go treat the diseases without correcting the cause, and the disease is eventually cured. When the disease is like fire, there cannot be smoke without
fire.
If there's a fire and you ask a silly question, Mr. Tokado, if there's a fire, 2:30 in the morning, and your lovely bride here is sleeping and she elbows you, she says, my hero, I smell smoke. And you say, yeah, I'll go check it out, baby. You put on your boxer shorts, you put on your robe, your gown, and you go walk downstairs, and you see there's smoke all over the place. Now here's a critical time. If you ask the right question, you go on living. If you ask the wrong question, you go on dying. If you ask the question, how do I get rid of the smoke? You see, that is a question, is it not? That is a weak, inferior question. And God, in His wonderfulness, will give you a perfect answer to your silly question. And He will say, open the windows and the door. So you go open the windows and the door, adding oxygen, and the smoke will actually start going out the windows and the door. And you will say, whoo, I'm glad I am a smart man. I am a responsible man. I have taken responsibility of my next 4 or 5 generations. And I'm a banker, or I am an architect, or I am the head of my family. And you climb up those steps, you take off your boxer shorts, and your wife snuggles up against your arm, and she says, you're my hero. You know, And you go to sleep with this smile on your face, and there you sleep forever. You see, an action that you do that causes your own self to die early is called suicide. And for those of you who want to commit suicide, I'm going to leave you to do your thing. But it's the people God has made you responsible for I must speak up for. An act that you take that causes the death of someone else early, particularly your loved ones, your children, your family, and your next generation, your grandkids and your great-grandkids, that is called homicide. Homicides should be punishable by, I won't say, I'll let you decide what it should be punishable by. But I want you to see that if you're talking about generational curses, we're talking about the difference between establishing a death style or a lifestyle. And the quality of your questions are going to determine whether or not you're living consistent and congruent with a lifestyle or a death style. You must understand that there are laws that govern this universe and it governs this planet. If you apply those laws, you get the benefits of those laws. If you break those laws, you pay the consequences. Every time. They're not a respecter of person. They don't care if you're black or white, tall or short, obolo, chingy, lingy. It doesn't care if you're Ghanaian or American. It doesn't care if you're Ewe or God. It does not care. If you break those laws, you will pay a consequence. If you live and work with them, you will receive the benefits. And guess what? They do not care if you are ignorant of those laws. Remember I said diseases are born out of the soil of only ignorance. And the only solution for that is awareness, which is what I'm trying to correct now. But once you become aware, with knowledge comes responsibility. And I'm asking you to take responsibility, join me in taking responsibilities for our next 3-4 generations. Let's go ahead and propel them. Let's catch up and propel them above and beyond. In order to do that, we will have to cure this thing called ignorance, which is just not knowing, and we must become aware, because the laws don't care if you're aware or not. If you jump from the top of this roof, you will fall. If your baby saw you jump off that roof and they crawled after you, they too shall fall. God will not come in and say, hey, because you're a baby and your mother did not teach you that it's dangerous to eat a diet that toxifies your body and creates diseases and puts you in a coffin at 40 years old, we're going to exempt you. That's not how he does it. He said it from the start. He set the standards from the start. It's your job to ask the critical questions to get the critical answer. He didn't hide these wisdom in a burning bush. You don't have to go find the fountain of youth. It's nowhere you got to go and find it. You see, the solutions for your problems and your community, our community's problems, is within us. You don't have to look far for it. It's so close to us that we can't see it. We take it for granted until we lose it. And then we go pay and beg everybody else to try to give it back to us. You want to go buy the fountain of youth. Well, the fountain of youth is within you. If you live consistent and congruent with the laws, you will feel and express youthfulness. If you live contrary to them, you will age rapidly and die early. I can't save you from that unless you understand the source of where these things come from. So how do we get and stay well? The solutions is purities. I'm going to give you 7 simple purities just so you can have something tangible. Today's been a lot about awakening your consciousness, awakening your mind, awakening your priorities, awakening your values. But I also want to give you something you can go home and start meditating and contemplating and praying about. Something you can go home and start looking at your children and your grandchildren and start saying, listen, with the years I have left in my life, I will give it my all to correct the years of ignorance I've allowed to perpetuate with my bloodline. On the count of 3, I want you to say your last name. 1, 2, 3. Oh, some of you don't know your name? 1, 2, 3. I'm asking you not to go and correct the man's lineage. I'm asking you to go correct your own lineage. I'm talking about a curse that creates early death. How can you develop a country when you're burying your talent and your wisdom at the age of 60? We look at our brother Kwame Dumore and we say to ourselves, with his young kids and with his potential, he's made Ghana proud, he's on TV, he's setting an example, and then you lose that before it ever matures and before it's able to get passed on. So each generation is starting from scratch. So the ignorance perpetuates because we didn't stay alive long enough to pass on the wisdom. So we go back to square one, we go back to 0. Can you see that? We go back to 0 if you're burying your uncles and your aunties at 60. You don't figure life out till 60. It's hard to even get real wisdom till you get 60. And if you're too weak, too tired, too lethargic, too depressed, too drained, too confused to actually now share that, then there we are. We're left with generations that's starting over every generation starting over. Who would like to correct this? Seriously, if you would like to put an end to that, I am telling you, it begins with understanding the laws. That's all. There are 7 purities, and we only have time to mention them. I will be back throughout this year once a month at every one of my offices to make sure you begin to master these. You begin to master these. I don't want you to improve small. I want you to 10x your life. I want you to say 10x. 10x. That means you multiply it by 10. We're not taking incremental changes. You don't leave this message today and you tiptoe into it. You are being bound by habits. And your habits have been imprisoning you all your life. The focus and the energy it takes to break through those habits is not tiptoe. This is not a meek, mild message for you today. This doesn't allow you to take a meek, mild effort. You need to make a commitment now. You need to take responsibility for your last name and the people who are going to be representing it after you're gone. It's a commitment you can only make. I can't force you to make that commitment. If you make it, you leave a legacy. You honor. You self-correct many years of ignorance. You propel and perpetuate your own children and your children's children. Or you don't. The choice is yours. Pure sleep. There's a science to sleep. For most of you, you probably sleep too much because you don't understand the laws of sleep. And the laws don't care if you are aware or not. Diseases are born out of ignorance. We'll help you with that this year. Pure water. That's not just drink water. That is how much water for your body type and the environment you work in, for the physical activity you do. How can you put in a scheduled amount of water and create a habit of water in your family so that everybody for the next one generation never get to the point where their body is deteriorating because it's dehydrated. By the time you get thirsty, you're already killing cells. Thirst is an emergency symptom. It is not a mild communication. By the time you get thirsty, it's way too late. We have the man here that creates, purifies in the moment, aquatorque, which is what my family drinks. Pure water. So the next is pure nutrients. That's all about do you know, by the way, that the water, you can be consuming other stuff that absolutely invalidates the water you drink. So you can drink plenty of water and you can do other stuff that literally cancels it out and you end up at zero. Same thing with nutrients. Do you know that you can be consuming nutrients and your body can use more nutrients that digest the other nutrients that you can end up in negative? You know, at Ghana we often like to, because we don't want to catch food poisoning and stuff, we cook our food pie. And day 3, we cook it again. Day 4, we cook it again. And we cook it again. By the time you eat, you're eating what's called empty nutrients. You're literally eating and your body's getting bloated and you're malnourished. You have eaten well and you feel sweaty, your eyes are heavy, and you're developing this thing, and you don't know that you're literally consuming foods that your body can't use, so it stores it in places that you don't like. And you're eating well, and you're malnourished. You are popolo, but malnourished. You say, oh, this woman cannot be malnourished. I'm telling you that there's a cause for every effect, including cancers, high blood pressures, etc. Pure air. Oxygen, there's an art to getting enough oxygen. How do you know if you are? How do you know if you're not? What comes in and sabotages that? What if you're not getting enough? How do you self-correct for the last 15, 20 years of pure air? What if I live in an area where they burn rubber tires, or I have to drive behind a trotro? What? There are answers to these. You see, my goal is not for you to get dependent upon me. My goal is to awaken you so that you start asking better questions. Critical thinking is just the process of asking questions. If I can encourage you to have the confidence and the audacity to start asking more better questions, you will find the answers. Guaranteed. Pure movement. I didn't say exercise. So for those of you who are over the age of 15 and you feel like you're intimidated by exercise, I'm not talking about joining a gym. I'm talking about the art of moving fully. I'm talking about what you can do when you wake up in the morning and get your body awakened and moving well. The quality of your life is proportionate to the quality of your movement as well. Your brain power is a function of how well you move your spine. And I know you may be old and stiff because you haven't been doing it for a while, but I'm now showing you that there is a better way, and you can literally get back your flexibility. I don't want to hear this age thing. I know a lot of times I get, oh, I'm too old now, it's too late for me. Oh, please. I'll show you 80-year-olds that have track meets, which means they meet up in certain parts of the world and they race each other. I show you 70 years old that have ran their first marathon. I show you people who are 80 and 70 who are getting married. The other day I read an article about this couple. Both of their spouses died, and they decided they've been dating for a while. This couple was about 70, 75, and they decided to get married, and they wanted to get married while skydiving. 75 years old, jumping out of an airplane, saying "I do." Some of you are starting life, and some of you can't wait to end it. Pure thoughts. You can think yourself sick. That's all I'm going to say on that. I can show you that you can literally stress and depress yourself sick. You can literally create the very thing you're afraid of. Matter of fact, most of you are. Most of you are literally doing the very things that are going to create the very thing you don't want. And your sick care model is teaching you to forget about it and just be a victim and consume pills, potions, lotions, poisons, herbs, rubs, inoculations, vaccinations, that work, decisions. It's teaching you to find health in a bottle so they can make a profit off of you, and you can live off these pills for the rest of your life. And you think you're actually well when actually you're actually causing the very thing you're trying to prevent. I can show you on the 26th, be here for that. I'm going to take you through cholesterol and high blood pressure. You will understand it perfectly. You will have enough understanding to be able to make better decisions in your life. You'll be able to understand what the real causes are and what the real corrections are. But for those of you who just prefer to live short lives, don't come. I don't want you living long if you're going to be miserable and unhappy with it. Okay? And the last one is pure power. The power that made the body? It flows from above, down, inside, out. It flows from above, down, inside. It goes from the brain, down the spinal cord, out through the spinal nerves to all the cells and tissues of the body. Got it? Got it. Any guests in the audience today? Any guests? First time guests? No. All right. Good. Guests. You're a guest? Your first time? Excellent. Since you're the only guest in the room, I want to gift you today, as a gift from me, a complimentary checkup at the center. You can schedule that with one of my front desk people, and they will bring that bill to me, and I'll be covering that checkup for you. And
nothing to fear whenever you're near, 'cause it's perfect when the family's here. The perfect picture in the perfect frame, 'cause without you life would not be the same. You pick me up whenever I'm down. Everything's perfect whenever you're around. You keep me smiling, I'll never frown. Together we're the perfect sound. We are the perfect family. Nothing can tear us down. We are the perfect family. Nothing can tear us down. A perfect family.
The long-lost secret of how to be a perfect family has been uncovered. Come to the Chiropractic Wellness Center and join the perfect family today. CWC, created